listeners may experience increased motivation, accountability, and personal development. You are now listening to the Think, Grow, Evolve podcast with your hosts, Eric and Jose.
What is up, guys? We got a heavy one for you today. You ready, dude?
Yep, big one.
Big one today. So today we're going to be talking about letting other people's expectations down.
Damn,
bro.
just letting people down. I feel like everyone can relate somewhat to this because I feel like no matter what, there's probably some point in your life where you let those expectations maybe get the best of you, but I feel like it's something that a lot of people go through, is the feeling of letting other people down. What do you think?
I think definitely almost anyone could probably relate to this. But the thing is, I think first we have to distinguish that there's perceived expectations that we put on ourselves from other people as well as actual. So like when it comes to like maybe as an example, your mom and dad, like they might have actual expectations like, oh, my kid's not going to do drugs, or my kid's going to attend school, or like my kid will become a violinist or whatever. Is it violinist?
Yeah, maybe.
I know pianist is like piano.
Or doctor.
Doctor, that's a good one. Better one. Easier to say.
Doctor, lawyer.
But then the thing is, like, a lot of the times, as I said before, like, these expectations are in our mind. Like, these letting people down, it's literally created by a rabbit hole of thoughts of, like, oh, my parents are going to disown me if I do this, or my girlfriend's going to leave me if I talk to this person, or yada, yada, yada. So, like, it's not as simple as just your mom and dad. Like, we have expectations from everyone.
Everything, job, relationships, just your own personal life, like, and sometimes it can get the best of you.
I mean, for me personally, I would say when it's come to trying anything new, whether it's going a job, whether it's a new hobby, something for school, an assignment, meeting a new friend, or even something as silly and fun as going to say hi to a stranger or a really pretty girl, the biggest thing that stops me is the idea of letting people down, whether that's letting like my friends' perspective of me down, whether that's letting my parents down. When it even comes to sports, like it was crippling, the idea of letting my team down and coaches down. Oh, it's like so powerful.
That's huge, to be honest. Like, I think kind of like what we said earlier, like when you say that, personally for me, I have had some scenarios in my life where that has happened, or where I let, I guess, expectations of others judge my behavior. And now looking back on it, I didn't realize it at the time, to be honest, but I did learn from it. Hopefully I did learn from it. But what would you, I guess, like, have you gone through those moments in your life, I guess?
Oh, dude, like I just said, everywhere. Like, it's been the biggest thing that stopped me, even starting. I'm that person who won't post an Instagram picture for, like, months because when I, like, there's parts of me that, like, I really want to do it because, like, I want likes and I want to fit in. And then there's another part of me that's like, oh, what are your friends going to say? Oh, if you post that type of picture, what are they going to say? Oh, shit, my aunts and mom and family follow my account. What are they going to say? Like, there's so many, like, I think in my head that there's so many expectations of, like, who I am from other people's views. And it's literally physically impossible to fit all of them, right? So the easiest thing for me to do, to not do anything, because then you don't disappoint anyone.
And that's huge, I think. And I think that's what a lot of people end up doing and get stuck in, right? Because then you're like, okay, I don't want to deal with all this because it is a lot.
It is.
It is a lot. Like, so you kind of just go through the motions, right? And you just don't do anything. You just stay on course.
Well, our bodies and our minds, and I'd like to think our energies, like, it likes to protect us from discomfort, and whether that discomfort be figurative or real. So if you think, and I think maybe relationships are really influential in this, because a lot of the times, like, not only do we think we know our partner so well, so we know how they're going to react to certain things, but to think of your partner not supporting you during, oh, if I post this picture, she's going to get mad at me, or, oh, if I get this job, he's going to leave me, or, oh, if I'm friends with this person, yada yada yada. Like a lot of the times, like we avoid these conflicts to protect ourselves, to protect the fight, to protect the anger, to protect the fights. And like a lot of the times your avoidance is what causes real damage.
Yeah, because in a way, like I feel like we just create these things in our heads where, oh my God, what is that person gonna say? Or what are they gonna think of me? Or they're not gonna respect me as much. Like when I look back in my life, like a couple big things actually come to mind is one when I was in my undergrad. You know this, but a part of me, like I wanted to do something else. I'm like, you know what, like this isn't for me.
Yeah, you wanted nothing to do with school.
But then just obviously the expectations of your parents, of your family, like
what are they gonna say if he drops out? Or like, Jose the failure.
I'm a failure, I'm this, I'm that, I'm nobody, I'm gonna be broke. And so at the time I didn't really know any better, so I just kind of went kind of like what you said. I just went through the motions. I'm like, you know what, like I want to do this, but I have certain expectations that I have to meet of certain people, and I fulfilled them. So obviously, like I don't regret it because I met, like good people and I've developed good memories and stuff. But that was, I guess, one of the scenarios where I did something not for me. Like it was you
lived a life that wasn't necessarily to your choosing.
No. And
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, especially like the younger you are, the more like this is gonna happen because you're young. Like,
exactly.
Your parents determine like what
quite a lot of things.
A lot of things.
So, and then I think just like don't obsess too much over it, right? Just like move on. And it's obviously it's easier said than done, but even like I feel like you're always gonna get tested in this way, to some way, shape, or form. Because even something recently is I got rid of my beautiful car about a year ago, and it was not easy. It was a very hard choice, and a part of me was, what are other people gonna think of me? What are their expectations? I have a fuel efficient Toyota Corolla now, but I have people that know me from before. I used to have a big Jeep Wrangler with some wheels, lift, I went all off, right? And a huge part of me was like, what are my neighbors going to say? What are my family going to say? What's my friends going to say? And that had some like influence on my decision, but then I'm also at the point where I'm not letting the expectations of others judge my actions and my behavior, because I have bigger goals. So I'm slowly getting past it, but it's easier said than done. What about you?
Oh, dude, I can think of so many different things that like I've shaped my behavior and changed my behavior. Like I have this thing where I don't like, little story. I do this thing where, say there's two parties that, have you ever been in those situations, there's a fork in the road? Like, oh, perfect example. I once got invited to a party that all my friends were going to. You were there. Super, super, super exciting. A lot of people wanted me to come. I was super excited. I had a relative over from Italy, and he was leaving in a couple of days, so we were throwing him a goodbye party.
Oh.
So, because I said no to the party, and a lot of people were upset and like angry, or like my relationship at the time was like, oh, why aren't you coming, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my friends were like, oh, well, it's just a family party, whatever. So then I told my family, like, hey, like, is there a way I could do both, kind of thing? And they're like, no, like, he's leaving back to Italy. Like, you can't just, like, not, like, be there for your family. What's more important, family or friends?
Oh.
So then what I do is I disappoint both parties, and I just kind of stay in my room and do nothing. It's not a good thing, and it's not a strategy I'm advocating here, but my mentality is, instead of disappointing one person and making the other one happy, disappoint them both.
Damn.
It's caused me so much freaking terror and anxiety, and it's something I'm working on. But I'm trying to be real with you guys. It's like, we don't really have rationale for the silly things we do to avoid what we envision as discomfort.
Yeah.
And like, it's powerful. Like, the fact that I can disappoint multiple people with my actions, like, it's a big responsibility that we put on ourselves. And like,
Damn.
so when I was doing research on this, because this is something like I really wanted to tackle, there was a psychologist, I forget her name, but a lot of the research that I did said, if you can like look back to your childhood, maybe specifically before the age of 8, because that's where a lot of our emotional regulation, like it's determined and our behavior is like learned.
Yeah.
So she suggested that you look back, and she said, remember a time when you remember feeling like these physiological, when you feel that sense of letting people down, where did that come from? And if you can't think of like a single event where it happened, that's okay. But as long as you could remember a situation where maybe you were younger and you felt that like maybe shallow breathing or your heart beating or your palms sweaty, and like it sucks, right? And there's a good chance, I'm guessing, that the way you physiologically react today is similar to the way you acted when you were a little 8-year-old or 7-year-old or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So like, for example, for me is I was shit terrified of people yelling at me. Like I was that kid, if you were to yell at me, whether it was a parent, a stranger, a teacher, I remember a teacher yelling at me and I cried. Like I became so uncomfortable with getting in trouble that I, as a kid, like would do everything to not get in trouble. So I would be a good kid. I would do my homework. I wouldn't lie. And then the times where I did bad things, I would fucking go to like wit's end to protect that lie. Like I would lie through my teeth. I would die with a lie. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but what I'm saying is that like that behavior was learned through childhood. Like, can you think of like, you don't have to give an example, but do you see how like your childhood influence could like shape the way you feel about letting people down?
Things today, yeah, 110%. Like, I come from like a Spanish background, right? So my parents obviously expect me to become a doctor, or not now, but back then, straight A's, kill it in school. And there was a lot of, I guess, expectations on it from a young age. So I feel like my approach was like, not like complete opposite, but I was like, yo, like everyone expects this much of me. I would not say a thing to my parents about any of my grades. And funny thing is, eventually I got caught, but I don't know if you remember, like every time we would have to get tests and shit, you know how like your parents would have to sign it or some shit? So little blackmail on me. I used to forge my parents' signatures from a young age. I'm like, yo, high key, that's genius. But I did that to keep the little image my parents had of me, like kind of just to their imagination or to whatever they wanted to be, right? But then obviously when they found out,
you got the belt.
Yeah, it was
this is leading perfectly to what I was hoping we were going to go towards, and that we have to realize. So like, how old were you roughly when you had to like do this like freaking James Bond stuff?
I remember grade 1 to grade 4. How old is that? I don't know.
Grade 2 you're 8. So 7, 8, 9, 10, right?
That was.
So as a youngin, you realized Jose needs to protect himself. Jose needs to protect from parents.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm speaking cavemen, or what's a scientific word for cavemen?
Homo sapien. No,
that's human.
Oh, that's humans. Caveman. I have no
It has
idea.
a funny name. Neanderthal. I'm speaking Neanderthalian.
Wow.
So when you're a kid, you're like, oh, protect Jose, right? So you do these things. Well, now as a 24-year-old that we both are, if you're having these physiological responses to like letting people down, it doesn't serve the same purpose as it did as a 7-year-old, right?
Yeah.
As a 7-year-old, you don't want to get your ass beat. You don't want to get whacked. You don't want to get, in my case, I didn't want to get yelled at. Like, there's different types of fear that we had as a young child because you are vulnerable.
Yeah.
But as an adult, that same anxiety or that same feeling, that same fear, it doesn't serve the same purpose. And once you realize this, you might be able to challenge it differently. Because it's not up to mommy and daddy to discipline you anymore, or a little teacher or a little boss or whatever.
No.
You gotta discipline yourself. You gotta say, oh shit, I screwed up here. I did something wrong. That's not cool. Or you know what? I did my best here, right? You are the judge of your own actions at this point because you've been raised, hopefully, by your parents to be able to choose between what's right and wrong. And you know what? We're human. We all screw up.
Yeah.
Whether it's at work, whether it's at school, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship, like we are not perfect people.
Yeah. Just accept that and keep yourself in check. Like kind of like what you said, like now that we are older, or let's say you are getting older, keep yourself in check. Hold, like, when it comes to discipline, like, there's going to be a time where, like, okay, your parents can't really discipline you. Well, I guess they can, but you also have to take it into account to just discipline yourself. Like, okay, what happened or what I did was not right, and I need to do something about it.
And what does it mean at a certain age when your parents are disciplining you? Like, don't get me wrong. Everyone
Terror.
everyone comes from like different backgrounds,
Yeah.
right? Where like different parents showed authority or discipline in different ways. You're not even parents, caregivers.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I think from an outside perspective, it served a positive purpose. Obviously, some parents went excessive and like maybe didn't do a great job. But I think the point is, like, say you're becoming a teenager and you're becoming an adult now and you're shaping your own thoughts and behaviors and feelings. Like, is it still on the parents to be that overall figure of like what's right and wrong? Like, at some point, I mean, as an adult, you got to be accountable for your own actions.
Yeah. And also, I feel like you also think differently. You create your own values, principles different from your parents. I feel like you may get some of them, but there is a time where you don't completely follow everything they say. And I think that's I don't know what age it's at. I'm trying to think back as to when you started creating, like, let's say your parents would say some things and then you'd be like, you know what?
That sounds weird.
Like, I think there's something, like, yeah, there's something missing here, right? So maybe high school, I'm maybe when, like, there's like,
probably different per age, but roughly adolescence, right?
But there, I feel like, and another thing is it also depends on the age between you and your parents, right? Like, I know some parents have had kids when they were young and others when they were a lot older, right? So
it's culture too, man. Like, especially I was born in Canada, so I can't say much on this, but I hear stories of like friends and peers that have like grown up in a different country and then they come to Canada and like this insane shift in society and culture. Like, so now they're trying to grow up in a modern Canadian or American culture, but they're like, their parents still live back in Europe or back in Asia or back in anywhere.
So it's like, what do I do?
So then you have like the confliction of like who's right, who's wrong, and like at that point, like, do you meet the expectations of your friends? Do you meet the expectations of society? Do you meet the expectations of your parents? Culture, like holy.
There's so many, right?
Didn't even mention religion, but that one's like a very aggressive pressure.
So I think actually to sum all this up, obviously each one of these are right in their own way, right? I feel like you should have a healthy balance of all of those things we just said. But this is also my opinion. I think you should also be a little selfish. And when I mean a little selfish, as in take care of yourself first. Look out for yourself first. Obviously, like, there's going to be your friends, your family, your relationships. You should have, I guess, you should live up, not, I guess, to all their expectations, but you should, like I said earlier, you should put yourself in check. But I think first and foremost, you should think to yourself if this is really you, if this is something you really want to do, if this is something that truly makes you happy. Just check yourself first. Like, that's what I think I mean when I say be a little bit selfish.
And I like that. And you know what's one really strong positive that comes from checking yourself and taking care of yourself first? And again, I think you guys have learned from listening to us that things that are simple to do are not always easy. So we're not saying this is easy.
No, it's not.
But I promise you, a lot of the times, and like I'll use me as an example, is that if you let people's expectations and if you feeling like you're going to let them down govern your life, you will resent them.
Yeah.
Like, I think back to relationships where like, oh, this girl didn't let me go to this party, or she didn't let me go see this family member, or remember that one time like she stopped me from doing this, and like you'll develop a narrative in your head and hate them. And at the end of the day, they didn't stop you from shit. You are the one that didn't do it.
At the end of the day, you decide what you want to do, right? It's funny how you put it like that.
And think to your parents. Like, I'm lucky. I have like really supportive parents. But like, if I had parents that were like, "No, don't play sports. Sports sucks. Like, you can't play sports. Go do this instead. Go practice science or go do math homework." And I couldn't play sports, I would fucking hate them, dude.
Yeah.
And then guess what happened? I would turn 40 and I'd want nothing to do with them. So if you allow yourself to constantly listen to the opinions and judgments of other people but deep down it's like causing you pain, you're doing them a disservice, because you know what? You're ruining you as an individual are ruining that relationship by resenting them for it, because it will happen. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So that's it's perfect, because like I guess some people look at selfish the wrong way, but I think when it comes to like this, I feel like everyone should be a little bit selfish. Like when it comes to just life in general, right? Don't be a complete dick, obviously.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like, be like, it's me or the highway and stuff, but just be aware.
Have you seen the movie Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney one?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
You know the gargoyles?
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite parts is like Quasimodo is in the attic of like the Notre Dame or whatever, Notre Dame, the church.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to go out to the town and go to the party, right? Or the festival. And then the gargoyle goes, ask for forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, that's very common. Like I feel like a lot of people say that, and sometimes you just got to do it. Like sometimes like, you know what? Like I'm doing things for me. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, like also if you truly believe in it, like then by all means go for it.
And if your intentions are good, like using a simple example as a relationship, like say, hey, I want to go get this job, and then maybe your significant other's like, that job is too far, or, there's too many attractive guys and girls there, you're gonna cheat on me there, kind of thing.
Just the environment. Yeah.
If that's like their rationale, it's easier. Like if your intentions are good, that you're like, hey, this job's gonna pay me good money so that I can provide more to my relationship, then at the end of the day, it's easier to apologize for your actions than ask for permission for them, because you know what? No one governs your own actions.
Yeah.
Except for yourself. I mean, we're not saying all actions are good. Like stealing ain't good, murder isn't good, but at the end of the day, you are the adult who makes the decision of what you can and can't do. No one else.
Yeah. And that's a superpower once you realize that. So going back to that, was there a way into where people, I guess, could kind of check this? I remember you were saying a very interesting theory.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a couple strategies that like people can do that can work on this. So like the first one I can introduce is called exposure therapy. So there's two types of exposure therapy, right? So there's in vivo, which is like in real life, and then there's imaginal or hypothetical. So like for example, have you ever gotten that text from a friend that said, hey, yo, do you want to come out tonight? Or like, hey, do you want to come to this party, or do you want to go for a walk? And you're like, oh, I can't let them down. I have so much work to do. Or I just really wanted to read tonight, but I can't let Jose down, kind of vibe.
I'm just not down. But then you're like, yeah.
Use those as experiments of just saying no to people. Like, hey, like, and we're not saying be assholes about it. Like, don't help your friends or don't hang out with your friends, but get used to being able to say no to people.
That's huge.
Like, that's a huge problem I had. Like, I could let down myself, but I couldn't let down other people. Mm-hmm. And like, if someone needs you, by all means help them, but be able to say no. And also, it's about being genuine. If you're going to some place that you don't want to be, or if you're going to, like, social media is huge. Like, how many times I've heard people like their picture just because, like, could you imagine what she would think if I didn't like her picture?
Yeah.
Like, we want to be genuine humans. Like, help someone if you want to help them. If at the moment you're too busy, people are going to forget that you were busy. They'll just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
or you got your own shit going on in life,
Another thing is imaginal, right? So, like, going back to exposure therapy, if we imagine a situation where we I'll use an example of letting my parents down. Say I fail one of my master's courses. Would my mom and dad be upset? Probably.
Yeah.
I'm also 24, and if I think about it rationally, it's like, well, then what would happen? I would have to probably take it again. It would probably cost some money. I'd probably feel uncomfortable meeting some new students, kind of thing. But like, at the end of the day, like, if I sit in that and not avoid it, not be like, oh my God, I can't fail. If I just sit in the, like, what would I do? It'd be like, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
I'd be a couple $100 in the hole.
But that's life.
That's life. Like,
yeah.
You got to be able to adjust. Like, life is never a straight line.
Oh no. Adaptable. You got to be able to adapt, because scenarios like that are happening all around us, right? So that's a really good example. I like that.
So yeah, I think when it comes to exposure therapy, if you can give yourself mini experiments of like how you can like sit in that discomfort of letting people down, you'll get more used to it. And also, like Jose mentioned earlier, it's an empowering feeling being in charge of your own actions and not letting other people determine it for you.
Yeah. It's your own little superpower. So
the other thing I was going to bring to your attention is the idea of the triad of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
oh, pay attention.
So CBT therapy, or cognitive behavioral therapy, it's a really popular method that therapists use when counseling clients, and it's because it's primarily effective. It's a very cognitive process, but it's based off of the idea that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, they work in tandem with one another. So let's use the example of letting our parents down. So if you're thinking of dropping out of school or switching a major or switching a career, whatever it is, and your thoughts are, oh, I'm going to be a failure, my parents are going to hate me, they're going to kick me out of the house, or I think they're going to judge me. So if that are your thoughts, your feelings are most likely going to follow of I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm uncomfortable,
Yeah.
I'm nervous, right? Just only natural if that is your thoughts. And then guess what happens to your behavior if that's what you feel?
It mimics that. Yeah.
It mimics. So you're going to start avoiding, you're going to start being angry, you're going to start being irritable. When people are talking to you, you're going to be uncomfortable and stuttering. And it just goes to show that all three of these things work with one another. And guess what? It goes full circle. If your behavior's shitty, your thoughts are going to be oh, I hate this. I'm not enjoying this. Oh my God, my parents were right kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just goes full circle.
So that I think is a huge thing. And when it comes to, I guess, when you want to change something, there's no one that you can start with. I think is just starting with either one of those three. Because I kind of like envisioning it like a little triangle, and they're just bound. It's all these things are bouncing it in like a triangle. They all work with one another. And if you focus on one, let's say if you focus on something like your thoughts, okay, now let's switch my thoughts. What's going to happen as a result of that?
Let's give them examples. So if you switch your thoughts from I'm going to disappoint mom and dad, switch your thought to this is a great opportunity to prove mom and dad that I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do so good at this job, mom and dad are going to love it. Or I'm going to be so successful that I can actually buy mom and dad that property in Florida that they want. These are thoughts that are completely different from the original thought of
letting them down.
Yep. So now Jose, let's work with this.
So now what's going to happen as a result of your thoughts? What's going to happen to your behaviors?
Let's go to feelings first. So if you're thinking that you're going to help your mom and dad and you're going to make them proud, all of a sudden I'm feeling confident. All of a sudden I'm feeling happy. I'm excited. I can't wait to kill this freaking job interview so that I can show mom and dad I'm freaking amazing. And then behavior, guess what? I'm going in with straight posture. I'm dressing to the nines. I'm shaving. I'm looking clean. I'm speaking confidently. And you know what? That right there is the example of how just changing your thoughts. And I think it's powerful. It's insanely powerful. And I think the two that you can start at are thoughts and behaviors. You can just change your behavior. You can just change your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Feelings is difficult because it's a response to one of those. Yeah. And it's learned, so it's more subconscious. But thoughts we can cognitively work on, intentionally work on. Yeah. Behaviors we can intentionally change. But I think it just goes to show what a difference it goes to say how your thoughts play into your behavior. I'll use an example. The other couple of months ago, this girl I work with, she told me she wanted to start running. And I said, oh, cool. I'm well, if you ever want, I'd run with you. And she was like, yeah, but I only run in my basement. And I'm like a treadmill? And she goes, yeah. And I'm like, well, have you ever run outside? It's so nice. She goes, I would never run outside. And I'm like, why? She goes, oh, people would see me. And I was in my head, my thought is, I wish people see me. I wish people see how hard I'm working and maybe it motivates them. So now look, this individual, she thinks, I don't want people to see me. So her feeling is, I'm nervous. I'm uncomfortable. Her behavior, run on a treadmill inside.
Inside, yeah.
Now me, I want people to see me because I want people to work. So I'm excited. I'm working hard. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling excited. My behavior, I run outside.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy how powerful your thoughts are. And it can go both ways. It can go against you or with you. So that's a really good example as to when I guess you do have those moments or you do have those scenarios in your life where the expectations of others get the best of you. So I think take a step back, just like you said, assess and look at your thoughts. What are you currently thinking of? Is it negative? Is it positive? Is it like, okay, like I'm doing this for me, I'm doing this for someone else, like, and like I said before, be a little bit selfish, right? Like, obviously I don't know if it sounds bad, but at the end of the day, the only person that's got you is you. So
A technique that they taught me in school is called the Knapsack Technique, and it's using the premise of the thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And what you do is you get a sheet of paper, and you write thoughts on one part, you write feelings on one part, and you write behavior. So you start writing, like Jose said, what you're thinking. So say you start thinking, oh, I'm nervous of letting so-and-so down, or I'm thinking that I'm going to suck at this, or I'm thinking that people are going to judge me. And then feelings. And this is the part that like the professor had to clarify, because a lot of the times people don't know the difference between feelings and thinking. So if you say for a feeling that I feel as if they will judge me, that's not a feeling, that's a thought.
mm-hmm.
But if you say anger, a lot of the time I like summarizing the idea of feelings with emotions.
Emotions, yeah.
So happy, excited, nervous, any of those emotions that I'm blanking on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So then you start writing down your feelings. So whether it's happy, sad, whatever it is, and then you write down your behavior. So what are you thinking of doing? So whether it's like, I'm going to go for that job interview, I'm going to say hi to that girl who always comes to the bar, or I'm going to tell my friend that I'm really sick and tired of when he puts me down at the gym, you know?
Yeah.
And then going back to the reason why it's called the Knapsack Technique is because out of all of those thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that you wrote down on the sheet, what are you going to bring into your knapsack? Because when you're going on a hike, you're not going to bring a freaking video game controller. You're not going to bring I don't know, a kettlebell. You're not going to bring a TV. You're going to bring the things you need for your journey. So with the backpack technique, out of all the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you want to pack the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that you need for the specific task.
Damn.
Don't make it too heavy, and if it's too light, it might be a little rough.
Yeah, just make it just right, efficient, and what you need for the task at hand. Wow. That's the knapsack technique. Is that what it's called?
Knapsack, backpack.
Knapsack, backpack.
It's also it stems from the cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just one of the like multitude of techniques that like we're learning to teach clients whenever they're, because a lot of the times it's like more common in men that a lot of our problems stem from cognitive processes, like just thoughts.
Yeah, and just I guess having that time to process them, because then again, emotions are just. I feel like emotions are just like your body telling you. I feel like it's just also like a response too, right? Like
big time.
Like anger. When you're angry, it's like you're angry, or you're angry, but a behavior, as what some people do, is they probably punch a wall or they throw their controller. So I think being the middleman and stepping in and trying to, realize, okay, I'm experiencing this emotion. Now, I can let it shape my behavior, or I cannot let it shape my behavior. So I think that's another huge thing.
Yeah, the prof that was teaching us a lot of this stuff, her famous line whenever we say something, and it's so amazing, is she says, be curious. So like, for example, if you're like, honestly, I'm nervous to apply for this placement, or I'm nervous to go to this gym, or I'm nervous to tell my friend this, she won't tell you what to do. That's not her job. She'll say, be curious about it. Why are you nervous? Think about why you're nervous about it. Because a lot of the times, like we just, oh, I'm nervous, this sucks, avoid.
Yeah.
Or I'm mad, so like this is bad. Or I'm happy, so obviously this has to be the best thing ever. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. We're complex, interesting creatures, each and every one of us, right? So the more you know about yourself, the better. And I love that. Be curious. Because you may just find out something that you may not have known. So I guess keep that curiosity. I love that.
And it can help you in the future. And like when situations involving the same thing come up, maybe, and I mean just maybe, it could help you, right?
Yeah, that's golden.
So I know we talked about a lot, but I think the last suggestion I have comes from the book, The 4 Agreements. And it's no spoilers, but it's the 4th agreement. And it says, all you can do is your best. So what I mean by that is like, I know a lot of this, the theme of today's episode about letting people down or letting others down, stems from like our childhood.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, as a child, we get our praise, we get our like we're doing good or we're doing well from our superior figures. So whether that's our mom, dad, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, coaches, whatever. But guess what? As we're getting older, that we are now that judge. We are in charge of knowing if we've done our best. When you put your head to the pillow at night, you can't lie to yourself. So if you truly, and I mean truly, are trying in your relationship or trying at your job, trying at your hobby, you know that you are. And if you're not meeting the expectations of other people, you literally, you can't do more than trying your best.
Yeah.
And if you're not meeting the expectations of your parents or your friends or your boss, then that's a communication that needs to happen. Like, you have to be curious about it. You have to think, like, if I can't control the expectations of other people, all I can do is my best.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, and it's okay. Like, you don't have to live up to everyone's expectations. Like, because that can be mentally draining. And then you may turn into a person you don't even want to be, right? So I think just going back to, it's okay, because at the end of the day, like you said, you're going to be sleeping on that pillow and you are truly going to know. Like, you, at the end of the day, you're stuck with yourself 24/7 for the rest of your life. So I like that.
And like I mentioned earlier, we think people judge us way harder than they actually judge us. Like,
yeah, probably. Because like, out of the examples I guess I've said, and probably you've said, if you look back at them now, we're alive, we're good, we're kicking.
Realistically, going back to your Jeep example, has any, like, besides the one person saying, oh, you don't have a Jeep, has one person ever made a remark saying, like, what, are you hurting for money, bro? Or like,
no. Well, if anything, I'm saving more money than I ever have.
Thank you. Well, like, isn't it interesting how, like, the fears that held you back before are, like, if you actually, like, flesh them out, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's in the moment, you're like nervous signing the papers, but now I'm like, like, why was I worried about like these? Like, why didn't I do it sooner?
And it's catastrophic, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's debilitating to the point where it stops you from doing things.
Yeah, to be honest, like, yeah, like, I think of why didn't I do it sooner, right? So it's funny when you put it like that.
Oh man, I'm feeling good letting this one out.
Yeah, mic drop. Expectations of this podcast, 100,000. Nah, psych. But yeah,
dude, now that I think about it, I think a lot of the reason why I loathed it on this podcast is because I didn't want to let people down, meaning like put something out there that was crap.
Yeah, but then at who knows, man? Who knows, right? Like, to be honest, I don't know, right? Because we are just recording our conversations.
But you know what I'm doing,
topics.
man?
What?
I'm doing my best.
Yeah, that's we both are.
And I think this is gonna go great, and I think that people are gonna like to hear this, and I think that we're gonna build a community.
Yeah,
that's gonna freaking make us 1% better.
No, we will. We will.
You know what that makes me feel? Happy.
Yeah.
Excited. You know what my behavior is? Pressing that damn record button.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little moment right there. But
we just went full circle, guys. That's
literally
what we're all about here.
But yeah, hopefully you guys took something from what we discussed today, as I feel like everyone goes through this in their life, right? Just expectations, right? But kind of the things that we said, amazing theories, amazing strategies that you can do. I really like that Triad, the triangle one, and the knapsack or backpack one. That's another good one that I'm gonna start implementing. So hopefully you guys learned something today.
And guys, please feel free to comment or DM us on our social media at the Think, Grow, Evolve podcast on Instagram. We would love to hear some of the techniques you guys use, because I do know personally a lot of people who don't have the same problem. They don't worry about upsetting other people, and we're not saying that that's a bad thing. Hell, like, I think a lot of us could appreciate you guys sharing some of the things that maybe have helped you guys.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy on like the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, right?
Yeah, the funny book.
I think it's genius that the fact that it's called the subtle art, because we know how difficult it is. So
Yeah.
if any of you guys have anything that you would love to share, please feel free. And like, we'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah. So that's one of the things is like, I feel like sometimes even in class, sometimes like teachers say this, but there's no wrong answer, or there's no wrong question or anything like that. Like if you guys want us to talk about something, or if you have something like to add, we're all yours. We're all yours.
We love it. On that note, guys, if you like what you're hearing, we invite you to follow, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on our social medias. Please feel free to contribute.
Wow.
Please feel free to share, contribute to the community. And we want to learn from you just as much as we want to help you guys out. We'll talk to you soon. Much love and peace.
Yep. Mic drop.